Well, hello, everybody. It's Darlene Corbett, the so-called unstuck expert who got very stuck today. Oh, I tried. My Zoom was not working. I had to reinstall. Hopefully, I don't get shut off for the umpteenth time. I thought, well, maybe I'll do it on my iPad. But then I couldn't play my music. Plus, I download the audio to Libsyn, and I upload the video to YouTube. I sound so sophisticated, don't I, about technology? I am not. I also, last time, I did get this funny successfully, and I coughed and coughed and coughed and coughed. Do not need to hear me cough. Anyway, again, Darlene Corbett, the Unstuck expert. Welcome to Get Unstuck Now. Surprised to see me since I said I'd be doing this a few times a week. Such lofty aspirations. No, can't do. A few times a month is the best I can do. I'd love to say 4, but I hope to get at least 3 times in a month. Why did I try more often? Well, somebody said, the more you do it, the more people will listen to you or watch you. I thought, oh, what a great idea. Well, maybe for others, but not for me. I never have any problems trying something new. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So I will stick to my original goal of trying to be on here 3 times a month. All right, enough about that. What am I going to talk about today? I always have something to say if you haven't figured that out. That's not why I'm not on here. I have actually a lot going on in my brain. Just like I always have something to write. But for today, I'm going to talk about 4 things. 1, constructive criticism with class. Just going to fix my camera here. 2, professional courtesy. 3, the epidemic of obesity has exacerbated with the pandemic of COVID. 4, something fun, the stick shift. All right, let's start with constructive criticism. I was going to call it Darleneism. Constructive criticism with class. So let me tell you why the first 2 subjects came up. Something occurred in the last week. One thing had come to my attention before, but I ignored it. That's the second issue, professional courtesy, but I'll get to that. Constructive criticism. So I post on social media for one reason only. Podcasts, well, 2 reasons. My podcast and my articles. You don't see anything else about me. And that is by design, deliberate. But I think it has its purpose. And for me, that's the purpose. Other people, they find it a way to connect with people. Well, I use it for that somewhat, but not really a lot. But, that's fine. Everybody to each their own. So I posted a podcast on LinkedIn, as I usually do, or Facebook. That's what I usually, sometimes Twitter, and someone decided to comment, which is fine, but it was not a positive comment. Now that would be fine. And I'll get to that in a minute. But the person basically accused me of being tangential. I'm saying the word wrong, tangential. I thought, all right, as well as having issue about the subject at hand that I had spoken about. So I thought, fair enough. I did delete it because I don't think that you should be publicly writing these kinds of comments. You want to private message me? Fine. I'd be glad to engage. And I'll tell you another time this happened. And I did and had a nice conversation with someone, well, through Messenger. But so I deleted this, but I thought, let me look at my podcast. I'm always open to refining and improving. It's like sculpting something. I believe in sculpting myself for the rest of my life, even at 64. So I listen to my podcast. I meander a little bit. I admit that, but I'm calling it a Darleneism. I once had a friend who I think of often. We're not friends, unfortunately, anymore. But she said once when I gave my mother's eulogy, she said, Darlene was being Darlene. So I'm being Darlene again, even on my podcast. There is no script. There is no teleprompter. There is no anything, just a few points I think I'm going to talk about. And I do. So I do meander a bit. But I always get back to point. In fact, I meander. And so I understand what my clients do, especially my women clients. They say, Darlene, I'm sorry, I should get to the point. I said, no. I follow you perfectly. We can be quite circuitous and get back to the point. But I didn't see anything tangential about this. What the person seemed to have an issue with something with the Catholic Church. I think I mentioned the Catholic Church. It was about my podcast on marriage. And I let it off because the Catholic Church has very precise issues for divorce or annulment, should I say. And then I led into the importance of marriage, but also understanding those positions, but more that divorce has its place. And the Catholic Church misses the nuances that occur that divorce is able to capture. And we do live in a country where a separation of church and state. So it was just a discussion about some of the tenets of why it makes sense that people get divorced. And those three, I believe it's abuse, addiction, and affairs. Now, abuse, absolutely. Many people don't even leave for that reason. They leave for betrayals they leave for infidelity versus betrayals of being abused, which is a betrayal. And I'm not going to speak about this, rework this, because I already talked about it. But I will stand by my podcast. It did not, to me, was not tangential. It all flowed for a purpose. And that person made it clear they tried listening to me twice and I don't know, whatever. They want to share the situation about their life on social media. That's their right. I do not wish to do that. And I do not wish it under my presentations, posts, publications. If I think something is, I don't want to say offensive, but yeah, offensive. And I think that doesn't belong in the public domain. On my post, I will delete it. And I may unfollow someone if I think they continue to be not professional, not polite. I am many things. I have a lot of passion, but I don't do that on social media. I will not attack, and that wasn't an attack. It was just a criticism and whatever. It's fine. It's gone. Now, let me tell you why I am open to constructive criticism. A year or two ago, I did a Facebook Live. Maybe it was last year. And this man said, slow down. And I'm like, whoa, I don't even know this person. But a speaker. So I privately messaged him. I said, he doesn't even know you. What are you doing? And he said, okay, just trying to be helpful. I said, hold on. This isn't a private message. Point well taken. I do speak fast sometimes. That is something I've had to really work at, as you can see. What helps me? I pause, of course. I use my hands, but I have to work at it sometimes. Not always, but often. I said to him, honestly, he said, well, I think you have a lot of talent and you have great speaking ability. And I just wanted to be helpful. I said, point well taken, thank you. And we were engaged and he was so kind. He said, I believe in you so much. He paid for a subscription for me, which he did not have to do. He said, I don't think you should hide. You have really, and I'm just telling you this, these are his words, that you have great abilities to convey material. I thanked him. Unfortunately, I never used that. I'm not really doing much in the speaking world these days. I have a lot of energy that has to be, well, placed where I need to place it. And that is quite an exhausting endeavor. Some people make a living totally as a speaker. And that was my aspiration at one time, but now, no. I love speaking. I love being on stage, but I'm 64. And even though I still knock at the door, you can only do so much at once. So I am speaking on podcasts, and if people want me to come speak, fine. But, you know, I'm not going to continue to promote myself and put myself out there. So I tell you this because I am open to it. It's you have to do it in a way, though, where the whole world doesn't see it. No, I will not accept that from anyone, whether it be on, and I've done this with other people. I have unfollowed them where somebody wrote a crotchety kind of message once about LinkedIn, or well, everybody here doesn't want to be your friend, or something to that effect. And they're right. But really on my post, I thought, I don't, and they had done other things before. And I'm like, no. And not that I consider these people friends, they're acquaintances, some virtual, some I'll never meet. And that's fine. But the point is constructive criticism with class. If you have some kind of difficulty, even with somebody's philosophy, do it privately. That's what messages are for in emails. Do it privately. So that's all I have to say. I may write an article about this. And maybe it'll be unsolicited advice, which I also wrote an article about. But I will write an article probably about constructive criticism with class, platinum style. Okay, the second thing is a little bit more, I'm going to be a little bit more cryptic. You're not going to really know what I'm talking about, but I'm going to use it as a suggestion for others. We have a world of ideas. The United States was born on an idea. There's many ideas. I talk about ideas. I listen to ideas. I write about ideas. And many ideas are repackaged and repurposed. So let me give you an example. In the therapy world, there's all kinds of new techniques, and some are old techniques that have been beautifully repackaged. Fine, good for them, whoever did it. They're marketing it. They'll make a lot of money from it. Bless their hearts. Okay. I hear this from some of my younger clients that are in the field. I say, oh, that sounds familiar. I think that was called something else at one time. A little bit different. They kind of, change it around a bit and wrap it in a pretty package, and that's fine. Okay, whatever works to help people heal. Okay. It's the same thing with speaking and writing. Now, some of the speakers, when I was in the world of speaking more in terms of engaging with other speakers, I was told by some people that, material has been taken from them. And I understand that their chagrin over that. I would be too. That's not happened to me. But we live in a world, unless it's copyrighted or trademarked, all bets are off. Now, I say this because I'm a therapist, and I believe the most important thing is the human connection. And I believe in professional courtesy. Let's make sure my speaker's on here. And I want people to just consider this, because again, I'm I'm a solopreneur, but I'm not in the world of business per se. I'm not in corporate America. So it may be different ideas there. It may be more of a dog eat dog world. I suspect it is. But I believe if you have some kind of professional connection, even if it's through virtual, and let's just say you have an idea that's, wide open, anyone can use it. But if you know someone that already does, and they've gone the extra mile for you, that they've done some work for you that they don't get paid for, or they try to connect you with someone that may not have come to fruition, but they tried. And then you see they have an idea and you decide, well, I'm going to use it. Well, I say, give it some thought before you do that. Boomers, I'm sure many of you do. And, some people are going to know exactly what I'm talking about. Most will not. But I think if you have relationships and connections, and people have gone out of their way, that you should honor their idea, even if it's wide open, especially if they've used it and they've marketed it and they've developed it into a product. So some people don't agree with me on that. And I'm just putting it out there. So boomers, I hope you teach your children to always treat others as you want to be treated. We all have to work at that. And also Gen X's, because you have children. Boomers, it's your grandchildren. And think about it. If you want to take an idea from someone that you know, or at least have conferred with, collaborated with, just consider if they have, they have some feelings about it. Oh, they might, that you might just say, I just want to let you know I might be, what do you think? And if the person's, well, could you at least change the language? They may not. So you live and you learn. And as the great Tiger Woods said one day recently at the Masters, welcome back, Tiger, by the way. See, I do digress. Tiger is an amazing athlete, an amazing golfer. His legs bother him. And he said, it may bother me the rest of my life, but what do you, that's the way it goes. And I often say that. We all say that sometimes. That's the way it goes. And in this case that I refer to, for some people, that's the way it goes. You just learn your lessons. You realize, you learn a lesson of who you might be more generous with going forward. Again, I don't mean to be so cryptic, but I want you to think about it. How do you view professional courtesy? How do you view taking an idea that is, again, out in the open forum? No trademark, no jurisdiction legally, but just more of a thoughtfulness. That's all. Professional courtesy. And if I have ever done that to anyone, please let me know. Please email me or message me or call me. I certainly hope I didn't. I certainly try to keep my ideas, no matter if they've been repurposed or repackaged, I frame them in a way that if I either give credit, attribution to someone, or I paraphrase, or I come up with something, I take that idea and I build one of my own. All right, enough about that. Obesity. It's not getting any better. Now, it's been getting worse even before. It was getting worse before the pandemic. We all know that. This has been an epidemic, as we are an abundant country. And because of that abundance, we have become abundant. Now, I think it's really hard to lose weight. I am very fortunate. I'm not bone thin, and I did not gain weight during the pandemic. But menopause, it makes it a little difficult to get off that 5 or 7 pounds. You have to really work at it. And sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. But the good news is I'm fortunate. My parents were both small. My mother was very selective when I was growing up, never gave us, I have more snacks now probably, but you had potato sticks on weekends and Jell-O. Remember Boomer's Jell-O? Jell-O, and sometimes Jell-O with fruit. Anyway, I think it's really difficult. Anyway, obesity is not always just lifestyle. There is a genetic component. And I went to my doctor recently, as I told you, while I had pleurisy. She confirmed that. There's a big chart in her office that has a big person, metabolic syndrome. And I said to her, don't you think that some of it's genetic? And she said, yes. I said, you're still seeing a lot of those people? She said, yes. So there is that piece. There is no doubt. And I feel for people that get those genes, because it can contribute to all kinds of diseases. But we have to at least try. We have to try to change habits. Not an easy thing to do. And I'll talk more about that. I think I have talked about it in past podcasts. I will return to it because I need to talk about hypnosis one of these days. But we really have to work at it. And when I read a little article recently that obesity in men, I don't know if it's just men, but by 2030, it's going to be 1 out of 2. That is very frightening. Obese. And then I forget what they said about morbidly obese. And the only reason why, it's not just a looks thing, even though people feel better when they can buy clothes that fit and just all kinds of things. But it's about disease. It's about all kinds of diseases, diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, so many, cancer. I forget the estrogen, the fat cells, something gets into the fat cells. I forget what it is. But the point is, uterine, I think, and breast, highly, highly at risk with obesity. The good news is there are tools, gastric bypass, gastric sleeve is the most popular. And to also help with this is to move. I'm not saying exercise is the only way to go. As a matter of fact, the older you get, it's really more diet, but exercise can motivate you, can mobilize you, it can make you feel better. And if you don't have to run around and jog 5 miles. I saw a woman years ago, and I'm sure I mentioned this on one of these podcasts when I did evaluations for gastric bypass. I've always been in private practice, or at least over 30 years. It will be 33 years. But a few years I did that once a week. I'd go over to Newton Wellesley. I'll never forget this story. It's a woman that weighed 700 pounds. She was very nice. How she gained that much, who knows? But she didn't have one of the comorbidities. I can't remember what. She was lucky. But what I was so impressed by her spirit. And she said, Darlene, I'm marching in place, because she knew that weight was impossible to do a whole lot more. But marching in place. So just move. Just get up and move. If your body works, move. Sometimes I just dance around the house. I don't sing because my husband says, your voice. But I dance. I love to dance around the room. And I do other things, not just dancing, but I love to dance. Do something, just move, sway, march. Just go back and forth. It will help you, even if it's for 5 minutes. So I think we have to work at this problem. Now, obesity, I'll just talk a few more moments about obesity. I'm not sure how long I've been talking. I took my glasses off, so I will put them back on. Thank God my Zoom is staying Zoom. Who's zooming who? I think Aretha Franklin sang that song. See, I do meander. But now I forgot I was going to say. All right. Yes. Move, move, move. We don't have to stay the way we are. And yes, my idea just came back. Obesity is not just with the human body. It's with many entities these days. Many entities. Colleges, because all the tuition those poor parents have to pay. It's because of the administrative state. If they cut through some of that, I suspect tuition would decrease or could decrease markedly. The government, so many layers. Some people think big government's a good thing, all those layers. I think obesity in any form causes all kinds of disease, blockages, and all kinds. That's just my belief. I think slim and trim for many things. It doesn't mean I don't think that there were certain departments there to help people in need. Absolutely. But I think you have to be selective how much they grow, grow to the point where they become obese. So obesity, in many areas, we need to try to eliminate the fat. Now, on that fact, I will move to the stick shift. Remember the stick shift boomers? I was determined to drive a stick shift. I didn't learn that one. And I did. And I drove one for many years and I loved it. I can't remember much, but I know if I got in the car, and if you can't see me, you're listening, I'm using my hand, driving a stick shift, neutral, right? I love my stick shift. The only time it was a little challenging and you had to really balance the gas and the brake, I can't remember. The gas and the clutch. That's right, the gas and the clutch. See, I'm forgetting, but now it's coming back. The only time is when you're on a hill. It could be challenging. And most of the time I did fine. But there was one hill I'll never forget. It was always a struggle. When people climb right on top of you, you're like, don't get so close. But I managed it. I never rolled back. A little bit, maybe once in a while. But I bring it up because there's not that many stick shifts anymore, unless you have an old car. And I read that I think there's very few in the United States being built. Audi stopped their stick shift manufacturing in the United States. This was an article in the Wall Street Journal not too long ago, and I can't find the article, but you know what's also very cool about the stick shift? You don't forget. I'm sure if I got back in the stick shift now, I would have no problem remembering. I might get a little rusty, but this is the very cool thing about stick shifts. I didn't think about it. It was in the article. God forbid if somebody tries to take your car, steal your car, or carjack, and it's a stick shift, more likely they don't know how to drive a stick shift. They can't go anywhere and they might get caught. So there you go. Justice prevails with the stick shift. So yeah, it's a dinosaur now, unfortunately. It's a wonderful, wonderful skill. I'm so glad I learned it. It's in my muscle memory. And I just love it because you feel like you can control things. And going downhill was not always easy. I was like a little afraid, but you could, you put it in, I can't remember now. I put it in, I don't know. I just love driving a stick shift. But when you do a lot of city driving or back and forth driving, it's difficult. But here's to the stick shift. And on that note, I have one more thing I want to mention, and I'm going to be cryptic again. A lovely person that I have read about suffered gravely, ended up being ostracized from their community, accused of something that they did nothing wrong, except they had a different way of thinking. And the walls were closing in on this person. They really had, and they were a wonderful person from what I read. I do not know this person, but they were wonderful. They went to other parts of the world to teach children how to read in third world countries. And they came home to be with their parent because their other parent died. Again, they were found to allegedly be a part of something they really were not, because they felt they had no recourse. Unfortunately, they are no longer with us. And I was very saddened when I read this. I'm not going to say much more because it is not, unfortunately, we did not live in a time where ideas and thoughts and speech are as safe as they were. I am not a conspiratory kind of person, but I do believe that there's a lot of negativity out there and there's a lot of nefarious people in power out there. And I do not want to be in any way in their clutches. And even though I'm a nobody in many ways, when I say that, I'm not saying that to be derogatory about myself, but I'm part of the masses. I'm part of the plebeians. I'm part of the little people, and I am little. So I will just say that. So this person, I'm going to throw a kiss, and hopefully they are being celebrated where they are, and they are no longer tortured by what they endured. There's much unfairness in the world, and all we can do is be thankful when it doesn't visit us and hope that eventually the truth will set people free. It doesn't always do that, unfortunately. It doesn't always come out, at least not in this world. So that's it. I talked a lot. I'm going to talk probably, as much as I did today, if not a little bit less, but just not as often, not a few times a week. How about a few times a month? All right, everyone, I hope you've given you fuel for thought. Keep going, my boomer friends, my Gen X's, and anyone else who listens to me. Remember, we have many chapters in our life. And it's, as the great Yogi Berra said, it's not over until it's over. And remember, sometimes that last chapter makes it a riveting read. How about that? Okay. I'm glad my Zoom lasted. I'm throwing you all a kiss for those that don't see me on YouTube. And I'm wishing you well. And I'm giving you a smile and a hug. Until next time.